Tonight, the province backs down on some of its original demands, trying to strike a deal with teachers' unions.
We must commit to keeping the best interests of students at the forefront of education policy, and today I'm reaffirming that commitment.
Smaller average class sizes and an option to opt out of e-learning. Will it bring the various sides any closer to agreements? Plus,
both traveling from one from Iran, one from Egypt.
More confirmed cases of COVID-19, the spread of the virus hitting a little too close to home for some Scarborough residents. And we'll take you inside the fully renovated El Mocambo. The historic Toronto venue is close to reopening its doors. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. Some big movement tonight in an effort to bring an end to rotating teacher strikes in Ontario. The province is appearing to backpedal on some of its original demands, now agreeing to smaller class sizes and an option to opt out of e-learning. With the details on the offer and the initial reaction from the unions, here's our Queen's Park reporter, Mike Crawley.
Well, this seems to be the biggest shift in the province's stance in bargaining ever since the teachers' strikes began. The Education Minister, Stephen Lecce, says the Ford government is doing this because it's listening to parents. Now, this comes after the government was forced to reveal the results of its consultations on education reforms, and they showed overwhelmingly that parents are against the idea of increasing class sizes or having e-learning courses be mandatory. So this afternoon, Stephen Lecce called a Snap news conference here at Queen's Park. Some of the key details of what he's promised. High school average class size would be 23, and that's effectively the same as this year. The government's original proposal last spring was 28. Now, those online courses, Stephen Lecce still says they would be mandatory for graduation, but parents would have the ability to opt out their students from this, which would seem to mean that they would not actually be mandatory. Now, here's how Stephen Lecce explains the government's reasoning behind these changes.
The government has listened. We have made decisions that are in the interest of students to get a deal, because for 300 days we've been bargaining. We're standing strong on what matters to parents. A fair enhancement for benefit and wages, merit-based hiring, but we're also, when it comes to classroom sizes, creating an outcome that I think is absolutely a win-win for all parties, keeping them low.
Now, there's no commitment from the government on caps, any caps of class sizes at the high school level. Now, in return, Stephen Lecce is holding firm that the unions need to accept a 1% annual increase in salary and benefits, and also to come back to the bargaining table. He's asking the unions that have strikes planned for this Thursday to call them off. The unions are not jumping at that necessarily. Here's the head of the Catholic Teachers Union, Liz Stewart.
We will come to the table. We are not in a position at this point to cancel job action until we hear what has to be said, until we see what's been talked about in writing, and until we find if there truly is a path forward that will help all of us, including the students of this province.
Now, a similar message from Harvey Bischoff, the president of the High School Teachers Federation, OSSTF. He says that the class sizes need to head back to what they were before the Ford government took power. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
The number of COVID-19 cases continue to rise in Ontario. There are now 20 cases here, but health officials maintain there's still a low risk of getting sick. But for residents of a pair of condo towers near Shepherd and Kennedy, concerns about the disease are hitting a lot closer to home tonight. Lisa Shing explains.
Management at this Scarborough condo is going to be scrubbing down common areas of the property with disinfectant. That's after a security guard there tested positive for COVID-19. This notice posted to residents says a security staff member came back from an overseas trip last Sunday, and he was working at the condo last week before the diagnosis. Some residents have been taking extra precautions.
If he works here, we can see him. Everybody know him.
This as Ontario confirmed 2 new cases of COVID-19, bringing the total number to 20.
both traveling from one from Iran, one from Egypt, but those people have been identified. They're at home in self-isolation.
Ontario's health minister says the risk to Ontarians is still low. This afternoon, officials in British Columbia announced a new case there.
It is a man in his 50s who's returned home from traveling, from visiting in Iran.
Yesterday, Canadian authorities started asking people returning from that country to quarantine themselves for 14 days.
At the moment, there is no vaccine and no specific treatment for COVID-19.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization reported more than 90,000 cases globally, with more than 3,000 deaths. Most of them are in China, but the cases outside the country appear to be spreading faster than within. The WHO points to health measures China has taken.
Looking for cases, looking for contacts, social distancing, hand washing, respiratory etiquette, readying your systems, having an aggressive approach to this. We believe that a reduction in cases in other countries, including Korea, including Italy, including Iran, everywhere, that this is possible.
Manufacturers are also being urged to increase production of supplies like gloves, gowns, and masks by 40%.
Shortages are leaving doctors, nurses, and other frontline health workers dangerously ill-equipped to care for COVID-19 patients.
The WHO also compared COVID-19 with the flu, which kills thousands of Canadians a year. Officials say COVID-19 is more severe, killing about 3% of people who get infected. That's higher than less than 1% of people who get the flu, although COVID-19 spreads less efficiently than the flu. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
We showed you last night how GO Transit is trying to keep the virus from spreading on its trains and buses. Tonight, the TTC says it has enhanced cleaning protocols in place as well.
Once the bus is completely cleaned, then what we do is we use an electrostatic sprayer mister that mists a disinfectant, hospital-grade disinfectant.
The TTC started using the sprayer on all buses in late January. As for subway trains and streetcars, they're using the same disinfectant, but with wipes. They've gone from wiping down the surfaces every few weeks to now doing it daily. This as Metrolinx released footage of GO buses and trains being sprayed with an antimicrobial agent meant to prevent bacteria and some viruses from sticking to surfaces and transferring to others. At the Kaelin Slater murder trial today, the court heard from a jailhouse informant who shared a cell with Slater and says he confessed to strangling Tess Ritchie. You recall Tess Ritchie's mother found her daughter's body in a stairwell near Church in Wellesley after she went missing following a night out with friends back in November of 2017. Police charged Kaelin Slater with first-degree murder a few months later. He's pleaded not guilty, but the informant says Slater told him he made out with Ritchie in that stairwell and got upset when she refused to go further and says he tied a scarf around her neck to strangle her. He testified Slater was upset when he learned police had security footage of him and Ritchie. The informant will be cross-examined tomorrow. And police are investigating a shooting inside a Chinese restaurant near Dundas and Spadina around 4 a.m. Emergency crews rushed the man to hospital with serious injuries, but he's expected to survive. Police could be seen towing a car from outside the restaurant, but it's not known how it is connected to the investigation. And take a look at this next video. Unbelievable is right. This was footage shared on Twitter today showing a driver of an Audi SUV driving on the sidewalk, nearly hitting pedestrians there, all to get around a traffic backup caused by a garbage truck. The man who posted the video says it happened on Argyle, just west of Ossington. He added he tried to step in front of the SUV to stop it from passing, but was too scared to continue, blocking the path. Toronto police say no one called to report this incident.
Hey there, Ryan Snodden here in the Weather Center in for Colette tonight. Another spring-like day across the Great Lakes today. In fact, look at the temperatures, anywhere from 2 to 5 degrees, even 9 and 10 degrees down towards Sarnia and Windsor. And boy, the snow has really taken a cut as a result of these mild temperatures over the last couple of days. How about the snow depth at Toronto Pearson? From 12 centimeters on Sunday to nada this morning, 0. And obviously still some snow in the northern parts of the GTA, and we'll pick up a little bit more throughout the overnight into the Wednesday morning time period as well, with a chance of flurries. Could pick up as much as 2 to 5 centimeters from places like Barrie and down towards Orangeville. But down towards Toronto and certainly into the south, it's just some showers mixed with a few wet flurries. That changes, though, as we roll into the later stages of this week. A nice Thursday shaping up, keeping an eye on Friday, no question about it, with the potential for some accumulating snow all across the lower Great Lakes, including the city of Toronto. Friday morning's commute, even into the afternoon, looks like we could see an impact. The good news, we are clearing and warming as we roll towards the weekend. I've got that full 7-day forecast coming up in a little bit.
The weather update is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
Well, still ahead, the first day of spring is still a few weeks away, but for residents and businesses affected by flooding in recent years, the concern is immediate. I'll tell you how the city is preparing, plus the revamp of Ontario's mental health services.
All told, there is a clear and pressing case for action.
How the Ontario government says it will cut wait times and improve services. That's after the break. Today's rain had some people who live near the waterfront worried that once again rising Lake Ontario water levels might cause more flooding this summer. Tonight, many residents and businesses on the Toronto Islands and along Harbour Front got together to call on all three levels of government to help tackle the problem. Ramna Shahzad reports.
We have spent more than $200,000 on flood protection, on pumping.
Rosemary Clark says she's afraid history will repeat itself. She was among hundreds of residents who live along the waterfront, worried about potential flooding this summer.
The lake is right there. So we were the hardest hit both in 2017 and 2019.
Those who live on the island say they have to start preparing now.
We want to do it in an orderly fashion and be productive because it's hard. Sandbagging's hard work and we're an aging community.
But French says residents can only do so much.
This is something where we need to pool our resources at the provincial level, at the federal and at the municipal level to actually help mitigate the damage.
We've been on this file since the day after the election, making sure that we take every step we can to try and get the water out of the Great Lakes.
The City of Toronto has a $3 billion flood mitigation program within downtown Toronto.
That plan involves using rocks and dirt to build up the island's shoreline, building up the area near the ferry terminal on Ward's Island, reinforcing 2 main roads so they're not washed out, and fixing a section of Algonquin Island. The Toronto and Region Conservation Authority says that the current Lake Ontario water level is sitting at around 75.1 meters. It's been fairly stable all week, although it's 9 to 10 centimeters higher than what it was this time last year. Ramna Shahzad, CBC News, Toronto.
The Ontario government announcing new money for mental health and addiction services today. Among the help that's coming, some free psychological counseling. Loranda Redekop explains.
And the impact that had on both of us.
Betty Lou Christie has shared her family story before. Her son Pete died back in 2001 from addictions issues, some things she struggled with as well. That's why she was part of the government's consultations on changes to mental health and addiction supports.
I wanted to break the cycle, and I was acutely aware that I was failing. My son deserved a healthy mother. I tried so hard to find effective help for Pete, and I could not.
The government says it's trying to fix that and make the system easier to navigate.
The Mental Health and Addiction Center of Excellence is truly a game changer.
The government is creating a centralized agency to oversee mental health and addiction services, promising to invest $3.8 billion over 10 years. Part of the plan involves starting a new phone line for people to access free cognitive behavioral therapy. The support they receive could be online, on the phone, or in person. It's an attempt to decrease waiting lists for mental health services.
Individuals, especially parents, are becoming desperate for services for their children. And young people, we need to make sure that we expand those services as quickly as we can to dramatically decrease the wait list.
Well, I was very excited to hear that she wanted to dramatically reduce wait times, particularly for children and youth.
The head of Children's Mental Health Ontario says that waiting list has doubled just in the past 2 years to 28,000 kids. Her own daughter became suicidal but was able to get help.
I hear from too many parents that their children didn't survive. And that's, we need to get kids the mental health services they need just as soon as they need it.
Mental health and addiction groups say next they're looking to the upcoming Ontario budget. They want to see money set aside to tackle the waiting lists. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Some dog owners say a new review of Toronto's off-leash parks may be barking up the wrong tree. The city operates about 70 parks that are specifically designed to allow dogs to run free. And last year, the Parks Department began to catalog the conditions in those areas. Everything from fencing and lighting to shade structures and accessibility. Now, while dog owners say they appreciate the city's effort, they say the review doesn't address their real need: more off-leash dog parks.
Improving Toronto's existing dog parks may not be enough. There are entire wards that don't have dog parks at this time. Dog owners along the waterfront are extremely frustrated. There's 2 parks being built right now, Reese Park and York Park. There was an opportunity for an off-leash area in them, and that fell off the table.
Well, it's important to recognize that this is a starting point. We are trying to get a sense of what people are interested in, what they'd like to see from their off-leash areas, and then we're going to go from there.
The city is planning to hold one more public meeting at the end of this month to discuss the conditions of off-leash parks. The results of the review are expected by the end of this year. Well, here's a live shot of our city skyline tonight. We're still seeing a few showers, and we could have some of the white stuff on the way before a major warm-up this weekend. We'll have your extended forecast coming up. Oh, the Raptors with the later game tonight in Phoenix. They're looking to snap a 3-game slide, and they're dealing with injuries to Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, and Fred VanVleet. And it looked for a moment tonight like they'd have to add Kyle Lowry to that list. And after putting up more than a dozen points in the first, he's accidentally hit in the eye by Terrence Davis. He left the court to get checked out, but returned in the second with some redness. Right now in the fourth, the score is 110-106 for Toronto. And Toronto FC has its home opener this weekend. The team hoping to deliver on the pitch and also at the concession stands. Today it was time to show off the food on offer this season. The choices include Chicago dogs and grilled cheese sandwiches. You can also grab poutine or a buffalo corn dog topped with buffalo sauce, ranch, and blue cheese. The team is also hoping more people will discover their app, which allows you to order food right into your seat. It launched last year, but MLSE is hoping some improvements will get more people on board.
I think this year we're going to see a lot of people ordering that way because, as you know, getting through the lines and on the concourse during an intermission can be a little bit crazy. We'd love to alleviate that pain by being able to take it straight to your seat, and that includes beer and drinks as well.
Toronto FC's first home match is this Saturday against New York FC at BMO Field.
Time for a look at your weather forecast. You know what, the spring-like warmth over the last couple of days, thought we'd do a little countdown for you, remind you how close it actually is. The equinox just 16 days away now. It'll arrive around 10 minutes to midnight on the 19th, just 4 days, of course, from springing those clocks forward. Blue Jays opener just 23 days away, and we are 40 days to Easter Sunday. So we're getting there, slowly but surely. I want you to keep that in the back of your mind as we talk about the snow potential for Friday in the long-range forecast, and we will talk about that. First and foremost, our latest system is clearing out, and we will see some lingering showers this evening, mixed with a few wet flakes in the north. Overnight tonight, again, north and west of the city, some light accumulation possible. Could see a trace to a couple of centimeters. Barrie down through Orangeville. Toronto itself and the city looking pretty quiet, though a few wet flakes not out of the question as temperatures do near the freezing mark. A little breezy tonight. Winds in from the west, sustained 20 to 30. Gusting 40 to 50 kilometers per hour. Now, with those westerly winds, which will be on the go again for tomorrow, some lake effect flurries and a few squalls certainly possible. Again, mainly north of the GTA through the Barrie, across Lake Simcoe region, and also edging into the Orangeville region down towards Kitchener and Guelph. We could see that as well. And again, the possibility of a few wet flakes mixing in down towards Toronto and even down towards the Hamilton region. So although it would be wet flakes, the possibility is there. So a heads up on that. Some sunny breaks intermixed with those lake effect shower mixed with flurry will be tracking through the region for tomorrow. Winds in from the west-northwest, 20 gusting to 40 kilometers per hour throughout the day for tomorrow. Okay, long-range outlook, and we're going to be clearing out for Thursday, looking pretty good, in fact. And then we've got that Friday system. The track and timing of this is going to be key, but as of now, it looks like some accumulating snow beginning overnight Thursday, continuing into Friday morning, and then tapering off throughout the afternoon. But this has the potential to certainly impact the commute on Friday, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that. The good news is, after that Friday system, we are warming up nicely, and the weekend at this point looking pretty good. We get one less hour this weekend, but I think 7 degrees and sunshine on Sunday will make it all worth it. That is your forecast to now.
Mocambo really has a place in history, and what I tried to do with the team, and they did a great job because I really didn't do as much as they did, but what I tried to do is take it back to its original form.
After years of silence, the Mocambo is almost ready to rock again. We'll take you inside the new and improved legendary venue on Spadina that's reopening in April, right after the break. The Mocambo has been closed for years for a major renovation, but the Toronto landmark is getting closer to reopening. And today we got a sneak peek inside. So this is what 6.5 years of renovations look like. The Elmo no longer just a bar or a place to see your favorite band. It's now a full-blown recording studio, complete with its own control room to live stream the acts playing there. The decor has also been completely transformed, with the iconic palm tree sign now on display inside, a replica outside, and of course steps that list some of the huge acts that had performed there. We spoke to the owner of the Elmo about the venue's evolution.
I think that the El Mocambo stands for Toronto. You know, it's been since 1948. It has huge history with not only the bands that play here, but how it started. It started at the edge. So the edge of Toronto was College Street back in the day. And it kind of evolved from there. And what we've tried to do is keep the integrity of the building the same and make it look like it was before, but at the same time, take the technology up 5 notches.
Well, the cost of all those upgrades, about $30 million, give or take. And fair warning, if you're looking to get tickets for the next time or if or when the Rolling Stones play there again, Weckerly says A-list bands like that will command a premium, between $500 and $1,000 a ticket. Well, that's our newscast for tonight. Tomorrow on Q, 2 words, Harry Styles. Tom Power sits down with the former One Direction frontman to talk about pop stardom and his solo career. That's tomorrow at 10 a.m. on CBC Radio 1. You can also catch it on the Q podcast. I wonder if Harry will ever play the Elmo. We'll see you back here live on CBC television at 11 o'clock tomorrow night. Good night.